So good, so good, so good.
Everything you want for summer is at Nordstrom Rack stores now, and up to 60% off. Stock up and save on the brands you love like Vince, Sam Edelman, Frame, and Free People. Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
Ready to soundtrack your summer? With Red Bull Summer All Day Play, you choose a playlist that fits your summer vibe the best. Are you a festival fanatic, a deep end DJ, a road dog, or a trail mixer? Just add a song to your chosen playlist and put your summer on track. Red Bull Summer All Day Play. Red Bull gives you wings. Visit redbull.com/brightsummer ahead to learn more. See you this summer.
And action! Hello and welcome to episode 325 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is an inspiring creative podcast about filmmaking, from indie film to studio films and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to F it up, in our very, very humble opinion. I'm Giles Alderson, and today on the show, we welcome director and writer Christopher Landon, who is here to talk about his new film, We Have a Ghost, starring David Harbour, Anthony Mackie, Jennifer Coolidge, Tig Notaro, and Jahi Winston. We Have a Ghost is a Netflix original film, and it is out today. This is a slight departure for Chris, who has been entrenched much more in the horror thriller world, whereas this film leans a little bit more towards the Ghostbusters style, the more halls of Amblin if Spielberg went back to his horror days. It's basically a brilliantly fun ghost story with a huge heart. Chris, I suppose, would be best known originally for writing the thriller Disturbia, which starred Shia LaBeouf, and the found footage films Paranormal Activity 2, Paranormal Activity 3, Paranormal Activity 4, and then he directed the horror comedy Happy Death Day. Then he both wrote and directed Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones, The Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, Happy Death Day to You, and Freaky, which starred Vince Vaughn and Catherine Newton. His father is the late actor and director Michael Landon, who's very well known for Little House on the Prairie. And Chris wrote and made his directorial debut on the satirical thriller Burning Palms. On the show, we talk all about We Have a Ghost, how it came about, how it happened, but we dive deep into filmmaking and writing itself. We talk about unmotivated camera moves, blocking One-ers, how he got his first paid gig, getting over rejection and disappointment, and what he learnt on his debut feature. We talk about working on Paranormal Activity and with Jason Blum from Blumhouse. We talk about making found footage. What's that like? What it means to work on a huge blockbuster sequels. We also talk about outlining scripts, knowing actors, rehearsals, why casting is ridiculously important, why turn down big movies, and sticking to your guns as a filmmaker. That is all to come on today's episode of the Filmmakers Podcast. So tomorrow is a huge day. It is the release on Netflix UK of 3-Day Millionaire. You have no more excuses. If you haven't yet watched the film on Amazon or Sky, which you can watch it on in the UK, you have no more excuses. It is on Netflix. You must have a Netflix account. If not, you must have a friend. Go watch it, go support. And if you do go watch 3-Day Millionaire, then please go on IMDb and Amazon, wherever, and give it a review. Give it a lovely review, please. It means everything. It helps us get up the charts. Support as much as you can. Find us on Twitter, 3-Day Film, and promote and support as much as you can, because we'll be shouting it from the rooftops. But what really helps is when other people do that. Help other people, and you should do that generally, is support other filmmakers, and in return they will support you. That's the whole point. And if they don't worry about it. You're supporting the industry, and that's vital. Also, 3-Day Millionaire has just released in the USA and Canada right now. Link to that and all those is in the show notes. Next week's show, or next Tuesday's show, we have Peyton Reed, the director of Ant-Man Quantumania. How exciting is that? And then on Friday, we have a lot of podcasts coming up. We have Marley Elfman's Next Exit. We have Saeem Sadik's Joyland, and we have Florian Zeller, the director of The Father and his latest film, The Son. All of those are supposed to be out right now. But that's very difficult for me because we only release on a Tuesday. Hence why this one's going out today on a Friday. So Tuesday will be Peyton Reed, and then Friday, well, let's see, shall we? So let's get to it. This is myself chatting with the fantastic director and writer, Christopher Landon. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Really nice to meet you. Where are you at the moment?
I'm at my house. I live in Santa Barbara.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. It's nice little seaside community.
Seaside in the UK is very different to seaside in the US.
Yeah, exactly. This is the California version.
Yeah.
Well, we normally have nice sunny weather, but today it's a bit cloudy. But it's okay.
Have you seen any decent films lately that inspired you? Have you seen anything that you've went, oh god, that was really good.
What have I seen recently that I saw? I think one of my favorite films this year was The Triangle of Sadness.
Okay.
Absolutely loved it. I don't know if it was just the absurdity of it. I just thought it was vicious, and really funny and beautifully acted. And I don't know, I saw it twice, and it's a long film. And it's a movie that I really was fascinated by too, because structurally it's very odd.
All over the place structurally. Yeah,
it is. And I was really like, it's funny, like between the two viewings, like the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, this whole first act that kind of takes place before they get on the boat, you could almost just lop the whole thing off. And it's almost the same film, but not quite. And so and then you lose a lot of interesting things. And so I kept going back and forth about sort of that. And then also the way that a character that you barely even see in the background and for the majority of the film suddenly becomes the center, of the story. So like just all of the risks and the weird things that it did made me really appreciate that film a lot.
Do you find that sometimes you can't, like, when you're watching something, do you find sometimes you go, oh, I've just got to look at the structure of that. Oh, that's an interesting shot. Because sometimes we can't help it. Is there sometimes where you just fall into it and you don't think about it? But other times when you do.
Yeah. It's funny. Like I find myself more analytical of shots, like sometimes there are shots that I'm really taken by that I think are so beautiful. And then there are shots where I'm like, oh, you're just jerking off. Like, this is super annoying.
Yeah, but we've all done that.
We believe you. We know that you've got style. I don't know. For me, I'm just one of those filmmakers. I think that like I really want the camera to be where it belongs, and I'm boring. I think that way. And sometimes the camera can do things that I think it's stylish and interesting. But I'm not like I'm not gonna name the movie because I don't want to upset people.
Yeah.
But I saw a film recently, and it was clear that the filmmakers were very, very, very taken with all the possibilities of drones. But like it was so fucking out of control for me, where I was like, this is just, you're just not even telling me the story anymore. Like I'm just getting flung around like a frisbee. And I'm like, this is not a toy that you should use like this. You know what I mean? It's like it just wasn't doing anything for me narratively. And so it really frustrated me, and to the point where I almost turned it off. But my husband was into it, so he made me finish.
He was like, no, please, I'm watching this. Don't you dare. Yeah.
Like, and by the way, when my husband really likes something or is into it, I have to really stay the course, because he's notorious for falling asleep in movies, some of my own.
Come on, no, not yours. Surely at the premiere, he's like, "Oh, this is boring. I'm asleep."
Not at the premiere.
Okay,
no,
well,
he's been properly trained not to fall asleep.
You can't do it at the premiere, please.
But like even reaching back into like sort of things I've worked on in the past, we've had a couple times where like he'll be like, "I really want to see that movie you wrote a long time ago, before we met," and I'm like, "I really don't like watching my stuff, but sure, I'll do it." And then like 20 minutes, and I look over and he's like, I'm like, okay.
You're like, well, I'm into it now.
Yeah.
I'm watching this. Yeah. Okay, I'll carry on.
And then I think, I should have had more drone shots.
Yes, exactly. Do you deal with it? But on that, then the motivated movements or unmotivated, because it's something that it can be very difficult as a filmmaker to sort of go, well, sometimes you need to do an unmotivated camera move because you need to get from there to there, or that's a stylistic choice. But when, like you say, people are doing it for absolutely no reason, it's just sticking a drone up because you can stick a drone up, or you're just following people because you can, or these beautiful things. How do you find that then in terms of that unmotivated and planning all those shots, and how do you get around those moments when you go, oh, hang on, I've got to do an unmotivated camera move here?
I mean, again, it just sort of feels what's the story asking for, and or how can I use blocking, to kind of help transition something, or I mean, there's just a lot of different ways to get to it. It's funny, like on my most recent film, and I was working with someone, and they had this absolutely insane idea for a shot. And he kept pitching it, and I was like, and I finally said, look, I'm going to do it.
Okay.
But I'm 99.9% sure that I will not end up in the cut. But I want to like, I still like to sort of like, it's so collaborative, and I do want everyone to sort of have their opportunity in their moment. And it's not like I could just say definitively, no, this will never work. And I was like, and yes, as an idea, it's super cool. And I said, so who knows? Maybe it's going to shock the fuck out of me.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
Right,
so I was like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And so we did it.
I think I know where
sure
this
enough,
is going.
it's not in the film. And it's such a bummer because as a standalone thing, it is phenomenal. It's so cool. It is so cool. And like, it probably would have even ended up in a trailer, it's that cool.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't, it literally was pulling me out of the movie.
Yes. It's like those takes you do right at the end when you've got it. You've got all your bits you need, whether it's something in the first take or something in the third take. You can cut it together in the edit. And then you say, let's just do one more for you guys. And they do a take, and it's massive and it's big and it's crazy, and everyone goes, that was amazing. And you on the day go, that was the best thing. Oh my God, this is what we're going to use. You get to the edit and you're like, there's no way I can use that. Doesn't cut in, doesn't match. The continuity is all over the place, and it doesn't fit in with the scene at all. Yeah. And I suppose that was a similar thing for you there. It's that kind of.
Or like that classic, like the one-er.
Yes.
The thing that you spent a whole fucking day doing, and the blocking and getting every last little detail right. And then ultimately you do it and you're just like, but this is taking forever. This is way too fucking long. Like, so it's one of the reasons, it's why I always inevitably will shoot something to help, to allow me to break that up if I have to. Like, I will always kind of cover my ass.
Really?
It's very rare that I mean, it's not rare, I should say, but it's sometimes, when it's right, you could just feel it sort of. And there are other times where I've had this little like weird feeling in the back of my neck that's like, ooh, like the little sort of like the pacing monsters on my shoulder going, I don't know, this could be a long time to make people sit through this. Maybe you should just, have like B camera, grab something so you can chop
just
this
in
up.
Case.
Yes.
Yeah,
anyway,
there's that. I remember my DP on my first movie, which was horror as well. And it was a kid running out of the house and just kept running and running towards a close up. Then he had to hit a spot, tear rolls down his cheek, and he makes a decision. A really impossible shot to get. It was hard. This kid was amazing, by the way. Nailed it every take. It was just us that was the problem. And anyway, I said to my DP, because it was a one shot, and it was amazing, so beautiful. But I just went, and we planned it. I went, I think I should get a cutaway. I think I should, just in case, from through the trees, cut of him running, just in case it's too long. And he went, no, stick to your guns. This is what we wanted. I'm so glad we did, because I'd have probably got to the edit and cut it up.
And done it. Yeah.
And done it. I mean, it wasn't that long, so we could get away with it, but I know what you mean. We've all sort of done those shots where we sort of push ourselves that bit further and go, no, but it's beautiful. Look what I'm doing with the camera, and I'm coming through the wall. Isn't this cool? Yeah. And it is cool. And it's just actually having a good reason for it. What were the films that inspired you then as to want to write, because that's how you got into the industry?
It's funny, like as a kid growing up, I had such weird exposure to films.
Because your family, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I mean, not so
yeah.
much the inside of it all. Like, not it wasn't that I grew up on sets, which I did, but it was more my parents divorced when I was pretty young. I was about 5.
Yeah, that's young.
And my dad kind of was sort of, he was in a bit of a like, who's going to be the most fun parent kind of war with my mom. And so he just kind of let us do stuff. And and by stuff I mean, like, my sister and I would go to the video store back when there were video stores. I remember the horror section, it was like the forbidden zone, and it was that section that I would try and sneak over to and look at the boxes, and someone would catch me and say, "Put that down, get out of there."
Yeah.
But my dad one day was just like, didn't stop me. And then I remember looking at something and he was like, "Do you want to rent it?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, can
And I must have
this
been like
creepy guy on the front of
7 years
box.
old, right? So I'm like 7
Wow.
and I start to rent all these horror films.
Oof.
And I'm watching all of it. Like, there were a couple that were no-nos.
The Exorcist.
Based on what he saw. There was some kind of evaluation, but like generally it was like Halloween and The Exorcist and The Shining. I was watching all this stuff.
Wow,
at
a 7.
Age.
Okay,
so that's
a profound effect.
Powerful influence over me. But at the same time, too, as a very young kid, I was drawn to films that I don't think other kids would normally watch. Like, I remember I went through a period of, I think I was 8 or 9 years old, where I would sit in front of the TV and build Lego ships, and I would watch Terms of Endearment again, and again. Like, I was obsessed with it, and couldn't get enough of that movie.
It's quite interesting that you remember the Lego as well. You remember, like, when you're watching these films and you're like, no, I also remember building Lego. How fascinating, isn't it? That your brain was doing one thing, going, I should do this and build something. As the psychology of that is fascinating. And yet you're watching these, films that are made for older people. But I don't think it affects you. As a kid, if you watch these films, of course there's a ratings for a reason, but there's things we can, it hasn't hurt you, right? I mean, not necessarily. It hasn't sort of made you, you didn't go out and, kill people, commit horrendous crimes. So,
No, I actually think it did the opposite for me, because I think I was a kid that had a lot of fear and anxiety, and it was the combination of, my parents are going through a really messy divorce that was very protracted, and there was the, I'm a gay boy, I don't know it yet, but like, I know I'm different, and I don't know why, and so I think having all these horror films to watch, it was sort of like a place to put my anxiety and my fear. It was an outlet, it was very cathartic for me to watch them. And I think that's why I was so drawn to them and why I ultimately ended up making them.
Well, it makes sense. There's a lot of anger in horror films. There's a lot of death and, that whole fear and the bullying, I suppose, that you were going through, the issues in your own mind, the turmoil of not knowing. You needed to put that outlet somewhere. And if you're not fighting back, if you're not going raging at something else, and sometimes you can do that through film, you can find the connections with that. I feel that that's really important. And it's definitely shaped you as a filmmaker. There's no question about it, really. The fact that your most, certainly huge successful films have been that dark, twisted horror side. And that's why it's amazing that, We Have a Ghost is different. The fact that your father was, I suppose a big influence because of him directing on Little House on the Prairie and various TV shows like that. And you went to film school. Did you always feel that that's what you were going to do? Did you always kind of go, okay, I'm going to follow in his footsteps? Maybe when you went to set and saw the bits and pieces, what was it that made you go, I want to do this too? It's
interesting because my desire to make films and to write films didn't have a whole lot to do with my dad's career. Weirdly, I remember as a kid, like, I watched everything that he did, but I also remember thinking like, oh, this really isn't my cup of tea, which is really like horrible to say out loud. But I also appreciated it. I mean, like I said, I think for me, what really lit my fire was watching horror films with him, because we did it a lot together, and he loved them. And he talked a lot about wishing that he could do stuff like that, but that he was in a box, a certain kind of box.
He couldn't get out of it.
And he couldn't get out of it. And he's very open and honest about that. And so in some ways I've always said that I felt like my career is sort of like an alter ego of his, or like an extension of something that he wanted to do but couldn't do.
Interesting.
But I was really, like, I just loved movies. Period. I obsessively watched them. I, would see multiple movies in theaters every weekend. Back in the day when you had to stand in line to see movies, I would stand for hours. I would line up like 5 hours before a movie so I could get the best seat. And so it was just a thing that I like, this is what I'm doing. And there was no question about it. And every choice I made post, even in high school when I was making short films with my friends, there was no question. It was just sort of, I think the big question mark was like, well, will I ever be able to actually make a living at it? Will I have success? Am I any good? And my mother didn't think so. But she was always pushing me to like go to business school or like do other things. And she used to say to me all the time, like, you'll never be as successful as your father.
Wow.
She wasn't trying to be cutting. She wasn't trying
to
be.
It's because your dad was successful.
It was matter of fact to her. It was like, this is a really tough thing you're pursuing, and he got lucky, and it's just really tough. And I wish that you would choose a safer path. And I think that she did it out of love.
Yes, she's protecting you. Sure.
Yeah. But what I came to realize much later in my career, especially after I had started to direct movies, was that the influence that I had from my father was very much a sort of the way that, because I was on his sets a lot, and I did see how he ran a set, and I did see how he worked with other people, and he was very loved, and his crews were his family. And so I very consciously at a certain point was like, this is how I want my sets to be. I want to emulate that, because he got very good work from people and enjoyed the work immensely. And I wanted that. I didn't want to be some person that like shows up and screams at people and flips out over nothing and doesn't love it, because it's like, it's hard, and it's, as you know, it's arduous and exhausting, and you sacrifice so much to be there. You sacrifice time away from your family. So you better make it good and make it fun, as much as you can. And so that was something he did. And so I think that was what I probably picked up more than anything from him, was the joy for the process, and the time being there.
Yeah, I love that. I think that it's so lovely to hear, and so beautiful, and it's so unusual that that's how someone gets into film, because they see someone else being so full of joy and finding their family within a crew and a film set. It is like that, and it can be like that if you want it to be like that. And even though it's really hard, that is just, it's so nice when you hear that, because you just hear the moaning and the complaining a lot, and actually it's like, look, we're very blessed and lucky.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is hard. Sure, like it can suck. Like, when we were shooting We Have a Ghost, we're out and like, it's the middle of July and we're in New Orleans and we're out in a field and everyone's just melting, and like David Harbour's like prosthetic like comb over is sliding off his head, and it's like, yeah, it sucks, it's hard, but it's like fun and ridiculous, and I don't know, like, yeah,
there could be worse jobs.
Time.
There's worse jobs that, you know what I mean? It's like,
oh my God, like way worse. Like, it's the best job. And that's the thing. It's truly the best job. So it's like, how can you really complain about it? And so honestly, it's a quality that I really look for in crew and cast. Like, I really will avoid actors that I hear don't love the work. I don't want them around. I don't care how famous you are. Like, please don't be on my set.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. There's enough brilliant actors out there. If someone's a bit difficult, you hear it, it's like, yeah, okay, I'll just avoid that one, or avoid that crew member, avoid that person. You just don't need it. It's hard enough as it is without dealing with that. I don't understand why some of them are difficult sometimes. It doesn't make sense. I just don't get it. It's like,
it feels performative to me. It feels like they get this idea that they're not serious artists if they're not tortured and if they don't make it hard.
It's silly. Yeah, I know. So your first sort of writing gig was, the Larry Clark. Let's touch on that real quick, in terms of Another Day in Paradise and getting that going, because you left film school as far as I know, to go and take that job to make that happen. And it's Larry Clark, the director of Kids. Just touch on that, how that felt. And was that sort of, and it took a while after that as well to sort of move up the ranks, because that's a tough period as well after you get your first sort of one made. Talk us through that, how that felt, what looking back now, what you could have done differently, perhaps.
Everything. Literally everything.
What?
Except for how I was very fearless, even though I had a lot of fear and anxiety. I recognized an opportunity. I saw it and I was like, this is something that I have to grab with both hands by the throat. And so I did, but I was just absolutely green and inexperienced and way out of my depth. I was in film school. I'd made a short film, and a producer saw it.
Only child, right?
Yeah, only child. And a producer saw it and asked if I had any writing samples. And I said, oh, yeah, sure. And again, thankfully, any spare time that I had, I was writing. So I was writing random scripts and whatnot. And so I had something at least that I could show somebody. And they gave it to Larry and he read it and he was like, I like this guy. Like, he's the guy. Wow. And they gave me, they had this book, Another Day in Paradise, and it was a book that was in two parts. And so I had part one, which I read, and then the author was still writing part two, and incidentally writing part two from prison. No joke. And so the producer said, look, what we would like you to do is we want you to write the first half of the script, and then we're going to evaluate it. Like, if we think it's good enough, then we'll actually make a deal with you and you can keep going. But if we don't like the pages and we're not happy, then you're done. Wow. Like, you've just wasted some time. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you'll take that. I don't care. At that point, you're like, I'll still take it.
Talk about pressure.
Yeah, I know,
right?
but the pressure is huge.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm writing. So I wrote the first half of the script and, they were happy. Okay. I was fortunate that they said I could keep going. But the crazy part was I was waiting for the other half of the book so I could finish the movie.
Right.
And so I got the other half of the book, and the other half of the book didn't connect to the first book at all. Right. And it was a mess. He wrote them in completely different states of mind. And so I had to make up the second half of the movie and pretty much throw the book out. And I'm terrified because the guy who wrote it, who's in prison, I'm like, this guy's gonna kill me.
He's in prison.
This guy's in prison for like violent acts. And I thought for sure this guy's gonna kill me. But anyways, I wrote that, and then the movie, and I just didn't know what I was doing through that process. I got an agent, proper agent from the gig, and then all of a sudden everybody was like, wow, who's this?
Bursting onto the scene. Yeah.
I was super young. And suddenly I'm kind of in all these meetings in these rooms, and I'm getting these writing jobs, but I just didn't know what I was doing. And so there was a very quick burnout, very quick. Like, I got a couple writing gigs, and then I think pretty soon after, people were like, this guy has no idea what he's doing. And my career just did a total nosedive, total crash and burn. And my writing career was pretty much over within the space of a couple years.
That must have felt terrible.
It did because I wasn't old enough to I wasn't emotionally evolved enough to really process all of it. And I was sort of embarrassed, and I felt, that ever present and like imposter syndrome that I still wrestle with. But I was just sort of like, well, fuck, that was a huge mistake. So I better figure out other stuff. So I started to take other kind of odd jobs, and then eventually found my way back to it.
How did you find your way back to it? Because we can all lose our way a little bit, but how did you go, oh no, this is what I want to do? How did you fight? How did you come around?
I kept writing was the thing. And it wasn't like I stopped writing as like this is a career thing, or I can sell this. I kept writing because it was just my outlet, and it was the thing that I loved. So I kept writing weird scripts and weird things. And I And while that was happening, I'd gotten a job at MTV. I was working on a TV show there.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of my best friends died, and my sort of brother-in-law died a day apart from each other. And I had this I'm done with everything moment. And I packed up my shit and threw my dog in my car and drove to Texas and left everything behind, my family, all of it, and didn't know a soul. I moved to Austin, and I decided I was going to get my real estate license, and I would just sell houses in Texas. And I was like, this is what my life's going to be. So I started looking into, getting my license and all that kind of stuff. And I had one idea for something that I was like, I'm going to write this, because I when I moved to Texas and I was living there, I didn't know anyone. So I spent all my time alone. And it got to the point where I would stand and talk to the checkout cashier, at the grocery store, because I had no friends. So
for as long as you could.
I had this idea about
wow.
about a guy who's invisible, and I had an idea for it, and I was like, I'm going to write this as a pilot. I've never written a TV pilot before, so I wrote it, sent it to a friend of mine in LA, who was a producer, and I said, will you read this for me just to tell me if I'm just terrible, because I really wanted that confirmation.
If I have any talent.
Yeah, I wanted her to call me and be like,
tell me I'm
stick to
terrible,
real estate,
and I can
you're on
move
the
away.
right path.
Yeah.
So I did, and then she went radio silent for 3 weeks, and so it was that whole this is embarrassing.
Oh,
it was
torturous.
so bad. She can't even call me back now. And then all of a sudden my phone rang, and she said, "Oh, I hope you don't mind, but I sold it."
What?
Yeah,
Serious?
Literally sent it to CBS, and they read it. And so I had to come back. I had to come back to LA.
Real estate license ripped up.
Yeah. Well, no, it was funny because I kept everything. I was all I'm going to come to LA temporarily, and I'm going to deal with the show. And if it happens or something, then maybe I have a reason to come back.
And maybe that gave you more power. Maybe that gave you more control of, well, don't worry, I'm going back. This isn't my be all and end all. This was well, if it happens, great, which puts you in a much better position sometimes. Yeah.
But the irony is that the show didn't move forward. I worked with the showrunner, and I did a bunch of drafts, and then the network decided that they weren't going to shoot the pilot. It just didn't go forward. But what was interesting is that in the sort of interim, I had some time to myself, and during one of my meetings, sitting in traffic, I was listening to NPR, and there was a story about Martha Stewart on house arrest. And so I was like, oh, house arrest. That's a fun starting point for a movie. What would I do if I were on house arrest? Well, I'd be bored to death, and I'd spy on my neighbors. And so I sat down and I wrote Disturbia.
Brilliant.
While I was waiting for this pilot to happen. And so when the pilot didn't go, I had already just finished the script, and then I sold that. And that ended up getting made very quickly. It went straight into production. And so I was like, okay, well, now I have to stay.
Yeah.
And that really was sort of the way I found my way back to my career and to the writing and to other stuff too.
I love that. That's great. And Disturbia was a big success. It was made for reasonable amounts of money, in terms of Hollywood stars starring Shia LaBeouf, but it made a lot of money. It did really well. People talked about it a lot. And it's one of those films, hugely successful. So congratulations, massively well done. During that time though, you must have been thinking, I want to direct, because your next project, in a way, I'm sure there's lots of others in between that time, was you directing your debut movie, Burning Palms. Did people take you seriously, I suppose, is my question, because it's sometimes difficult, especially, 10 years ago or so, people going, oh, I write this, but I'm also going to direct it. How did you make that happen? How did you say, no, I am directing this, when you technically, directed a short before that?
Right. It's funny because I had my directing aspirations had kind of stalled fairly early into my career, where I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on writing. And Burning Palms was a anthology series. It had started as a series. I wanted it to be a show about really fucked up people living in different pockets of Los Angeles. And then I kind of shoved a bunch of them together. So there were like 5 stories, and I had given it to again, it was another one of those. I gave the script to a friend of mine who read it, and he came to me and said, "Hey, I know these really rich people in Louisiana who want to make a movie and they love your script." Yep. I gave it to them and they read it. They thought it was really funny and really fucked up. And they even said you could direct it. Like, yep. It wasn't like I was pursuing it. I wasn't asking for it. He offered it.
Oh, I see.
He offered it. And I remember going, oh,
wow.
Well, that's a tough thing to turn down. But I was also like terrified.
Massively.
I was like, well, this is like a lot of, like, at the time, especially sort of just given what it was like a lot of money. So it was a trial by fire in the end, because I stepped back into it and was very green, and it's a weird movie. Like, if you watch it now, it's very mixed bag. There are things in it that I think work really well, and I think there are things that are just absolute shit and a total disaster. But what I got out of the experience was that, again, it was like a bug that bit me, where I was like, okay, I may have did all these things wrong, but I think I know how to do it better next time. But I really liked working with all these people, and not being alone in front of a computer all day. So maybe I should try and give this another.
Because your cast was, huge, incredible. Rosamund Pike, Dylan McDermott, Zoe Saldana, Nick Stahl, Anson Mount, Lake Bell. The list goes on, mate. It's like, wow, okay, that's for a debut movie.
And then you see it, then you're like, oh, Jesus. And it's also like, it's a really weird movie because I wrote it during one of my darkest periods where I was just absolutely fed up with the world and people. And it was just like pure, it was just like vitriol. It was just like, anger and confusion and frustration and sadness and everything all on the page. And to see the film now, it kind of makes me sad, because I look at that and I'm like, oh, that guy was really unhappy. Like, the guy who made that film. And it's certainly not the kind of thing I would ever want to put out into the world now, I mean, I did it. And
isn't that interesting?
But yeah, it feels like I'm watching the work of someone else in some ways.
That is fascinating. That is really interesting. Had you come out at that point where you were, an openly gay filmmaker?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you were. So it wasn't you were hiding behind.
It wasn't a coming out thing. It was just I just had I'd reached a point in my life where I had such a cynical worldview. And the film really kind of announces that, like, it is just knee deep in it. And yeah, I mean, it's funny. Some of it's very funny, for sure. But it was, just a dark period, and it's just a weird film.
You mentioned there about what you learned from it. Can you remember now what you thought at the time I could do better? Because you didn't direct for a little while after Paranormal Activity. The Marked Ones was your next directing, and that was, I suppose it's only 4 years later, but still, I suppose when you shot it was probably maybe 5. But what do you think you took forward?
Oh gosh, so many things. I mean, I think one thing that I took from it was really understanding the pre-production process more. It was something that I kind of didn't fully grasp how dire it is to put in the work at that period, to really try and make as many decisions as humanly possible. Then I kind of thought like I could wing it a bit more. And so I kind of felt like I came to my days feeling unprepared. And so now I'm like, I'm a stickler for just doing as much as I can in prep. I mean, just everything that I can do, I try and do it. Because I want to overplan and overknow it so that I can just kind of throw it away on the day.
That's the best. Yeah, absolutely. Do you storyboard? Do you, obviously all shot lists as well, I imagine. Talk us through that process there that you mentioned.
I'm a big shot lister, and I'm a big mud mapper, If that
Mud Mapper, talk us through that.
So it's really just sort of or however you want to call it, but it's a nice classic bird's eye view of a set, and like of marking where the cameras are going to go, and like blocking with little fun little arrows and whatnot. I'll put it this way. I would try to board a lot of stuff, but like I wasn't working at a budget level where like I was boarding to my actual sets, or to my locations, because I didn't have them picked out yet. And what I kept finding was that I had all these fancy boards done, and then I would go and location scout and find something and change things. And then by the time I was there on the day, the boards didn't match anything. And so it felt like a waste of time. Sure. So unless I'm shooting a very complicated sequence, which I will board those sequences, if it's an action sequence or a car chase or things like that require a lot of planning and a lot of departments who need to understand stuff, I really like to shot list everything, and that works in tandem with the mud map, so that what I usually do is my DP and I will do that extensively together. And then we share that with all the departments, so that everybody knows what the work of the day looks like. They know exactly every single shot we're planning for the day. And it just makes things run really smooth, and it allows us to be nimble, and I don't feel locked into some sort of board situation. So I can rejigger something, because sometimes we are struck by some kind of random inspiration and we go, hey, let's do the One-er instead of these 5 shots that we were going to do or whatever. But I just like the simplicity of it. But that's generally what I've done. And I've just, and only on a couple films have I been able to even bother with something like previs, where we really do the kind of crazy complex stuff. That's big action. Tend to be so small that I just don't need that.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, big action set pieces, absolutely, board as much as you can. So I love that. I love that, so that you can be free on set or change it. But that's cool, as long as you've got an idea. It's so important to come with an idea, in my opinion. It sounds like you absolutely go for that side of it, and I love it.
At first, I didn't think it was real. I woke up to this blinding light, and I was transported to another place. Pluto TV. Then I heard a voice.
Come with me if you want to live.
There were thousands of movies and shows, and they were all free. The truth is, it's just so beautiful.
On Pluto TV, free streaming of Terminator 2, Fringe, Arrow, The 100, and The X-Files may cause excitement, loss of sleep, and sudden belief in extraterrestrials. No credit cards or alien encounters necessary. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
Wishing you could be there live for the big game, soaking up the atmosphere of the crowd. But too often, life gets busy, or the price holds you back. Priceline is here to help you make it happen. With millions of deals on flights, hotels, and rental cars, you can go see the game live. Don't just dream about the trip, book it with Priceline. Download the Priceline app or visit Priceline.com. Actual prices may vary. Limited time offer.
You said this place was steps from the water.
We just haven't found the steps yet.
How much did we save?
Enough.
Enough to get lost?
Or you could book a stay with Hilton.
Welcome to your oceanfront room, just steps from the water.
The Hilton sale is on now. Book on Hilton.com or the Hilton app and save up to 20% to get the stay you expected. When you want savings, not surprises, it matters where you stay. Hilton, for the stay.
From Disturbia then, and obviously Burning Palms as well, but I imagine Disturbia really helped you get Paranormal Activity. Did you pitch for it? Because obviously Paranormal Activity 1 was a ridiculously huge success. So Paranormal 2 was an inevitability, but you got a chance to write on that. How did it come about?
Well, so you're going to start to recognize a pattern, which is that weird things happened, and I happened to maybe fall into them, which is the case here. So they had made the first Paranormal. Obviously, that was Oren Peli who made that film. He shot it on weekends at his house.
Yeah.
And he did it over the course of like a year and a half. So they just shot a bunch of shit, and he finally cut it together, and it was really scary. And I remember I was at that point, I'd started to work with Jason Blum.
As a writer or a producer?
As a writer. I'd written a film for Jason's company, and it didn't go anywhere. But I liked him, and he worked with another guy, this guy named Steven Schneider, who was sort of like, he's like a guru of horror. Like he'd written books on genre and just really into it. And Steven, I think, went to like Slam Dance or something. I'm going to get this wrong. So like, someone's going to have to correct me. But the point is that Steven said, hey, I'm showing Jason a movie tonight at his house. And since you love horror as much as I do, I think you should come and watch it too. So I went over to their house, to Jason's house, and it was Paranormal Activity. So I watched it for the first time that Jason saw it. And the movie ended and my heart was beating, and I looked at Jason and I was like, I don't know what the fuck that was, but you better figure out how you're involved with it.
Yep, exactly.
And then cut to, several years later, the movie came out. It was a huge success. Paramount, demanded a sequel. They decided to do what Oren did. They were like, we're going to wing it. We have a threadbare concept of a movie, but no script, and we'll just shoot stuff and see how it goes. And so naturally it went terribly. And so about 3 weeks into that, they shut production down because they were like, we don't have anything. There's no movie here. We're just shooting garbage.
Shut it down. Wow.
So they shut it down, and then they did a writer's room. So they brought in a bunch of writers, and I got picked out, so it was me and like 6 or 7 other people. And they gave us like the summary of the movie. And they showed us some footage cut together, and everyone was like talking and sort of basically patting everyone on the back. Like, wow, this is great. This is going to be great. Sure, there's some work to be done here, but it's great. And I sat there in the room with my arms folded, looking really sour because I get very emotional about the work. And the head of the studio looked at me and he goes, Chris, why are you haven't said anything and you're frowning.
Oh, that's just my face.
And I said, well, yes, I just have resting bitch face. And I said, well, honestly, I'm like, you're in trouble. I'm like, this isn't good. Like, this isn't good. And none of this makes any sense. And none of it's actually scary. And he's like, well, what would you do? And so in the room, I pitched this sequence that's in the movie, that's in part 2, where Christy, the sister, she goes into the nursery and she gets ripped out of this room and dragged down the stairs by this unseen force. And right after I pitched it and the meeting ended, the head of the studio pulled me aside and he's like, will you go home and write that for me? And I was like, all right, fine. So I wrote it, gave it to them. And then they came back to me and said, we want you to write more. So it was, again, this kind of like weird, shapeless, like, am I hired? What is happening?
Is this me?
What is this job? And so then they said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And I was like, wait, I'm back to square one. You're going to write half the movie. The original writer is going to write the other half. And I was like, okay. So we both wrote our halves and they put them together. And then they decided they didn't like what he did. So he got fired, I guess. And then they had me do the whole thing. So I was officially hired. I wrote the whole movie. And then it came out. And while we were in post-production, I had the idea for the third movie, and I pitched it to the studio. And I said, look, if this thing works and people see it again, I have the next one. So that's kind of how that all happened. But it was another case of I was in the right place at the right time. So I was lucky, but then I also saw the opportunity and attacked it as hard as I could. So it was,
yeah. As much as you could say lucky, it's also skill and ability to be in the room at the same time. For Jason to like you enough to say, come to this screening. It's all those things combined that why you do well in this industry, and that says it all right there. That's fascinating.
It was a weird gig, though. It was a weird run because they were found footage movies. And so it was thankless in terms of being the writer of a found footage movie is thankless. Like, no one thinks it's written. Everyone thinks you've made it all up, or that you just kind of were riffing. And they didn't understand that I wrote full scripts with dialogue and everything. And that a lot of what was being said on camera was something I wrote, but just delivered well, by capable actors who could make it feel real. So it did nothing for me career-wise, really. Like,
really?
Nobody cared. No one really cared. I wasn't getting writing jobs off of those movies because people were like, someone wrote that? So yeah, it was
My
weird.
gosh.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating. So then you were like, well, sorry, I'll do the fourth one then. And, then you became exec producer as well. So you're massively part of that world. Did then that help to then go, I'm putting my hand up. I'm directing one of these. I want people to know I've been involved in this.
I tried
or was
to
it
put my
again the
hand
same
up
sort of thing?
Earlier, I'd raised my hand pretty early on in the process, and they were like, "Oh, sit down. You're not the one." And then
just write it, mate.
Yeah. And then again, the same guy, the head of the studio, the guy that I'd been dealing with from the beginning of the process, he called me into his office and said, "Okay, I have one for you to direct. But we're going to do a spinoff, and it's going to be about a Latino family that lives in Oxnard, California." And I was like,
"What?
Wait a minute. You want the white gay guy to write your Latino spinoff of Paranormal Activity?" So it just all felt very misaligned. But again, it was an opportunity, and and I also kind of, at the end of the day, like, people are people. And so it didn't take much for me to wrap my head around it and to figure it out.
Yeah. How did you find directing that then? Because you're trying to direct something that, even though it's a spin-off, are you still trying to make it work within the capabilities of Paranormal Activity and what people expect? Or were you going, no, if I'm doing this, I'm doing something different?
It was already something a little different because it wasn't directly connected to the other films. And so I had some freedom there. I mean, the challenge was, I still had to work within the parameters of a found footage movie, which again is another, I don't think people appreciate how hard those films are to make, because you can't rely on traditional coverage, and you don't have a score to kind of help inform how you're feeling or what, so it's like, they're really, and you have to justify why someone's holding a camera when they absolutely should not be holding a camera.
Exactly. Why would you hold that at that point?
Yeah. You're like an idiot. So, so it was challenging, but I think that the combination of the Latino culture, the urban setting, I was able to break a lot of our rules, and do things differently, so I tried to sort of give it my own kind of spin and a little bit of style, but still just try and tell a story, as best I could.
Yeah, I like that. Did that then lead on to other things? Now you're the director and the writer. Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse is one of them that you then went on to, and then obviously Happy Death Day, and Happy Death Day to you. All three of them brilliant films, but Happy Death Day especially hit a real zeitgeist that just everyone went, that's cool. And every writer and director out there went, I had that idea. What I mean? This Groundhog Day style, wonderful thing set with teenagers. It's beautiful. I remember watching it in the cinema going, that's cool. That's interesting. That's fun. That's just what everyone wants from a cinema experience, in that sense of a fun horror. Did your experience of paranormal and moving forward really help for you to throw your hat massively in the ring to be making these types of films? How did you work your way into suddenly, with Jason, Blum and the whole team there? How did you go, no, I'm cementing my place now. This is what I want.
It was a rocky road because, the paranormal, the marked ones, which was the spinoff, got me my job, I got Scouts from that gig, because it was the same studio and the same regime, the same producer.
Okay.
Actually different producer, but it's the same studio. And so I was like, great, this is my thing. I get to do this.
Todd Garner. We love Todd Garner.
I made the movie, and then the movie was a flop.
A flop in the
people have come around to it,
but because I don't think it is financially in their world. Maybe
it was a bit of a flop. Now, by the way, in fairness to me, the studio at the time wanted to test a new release model with the movie, and they were trying to collapse the day and date window even back then, pre-COVID.
Right. Okay.
So they chose my movie as their guinea pig.
Oh gosh.
And so they said, here's what we're going to do. And we're going to release this movie, and then it's going to come out on VOD or whatever, 2 weeks later or something. And so a majority of the theater exhibitors, the theater chain, said, well, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, of course they do. We don't want it.
So they said, we won't show that movie. So I ended up with a very reduced number of screens. And honestly, I think the zombie trend had waned, and I don't think that horror comedies were particularly popular even, at that time. They felt more niche. So the movie did not perform, right? So point being, I kind of ended up in director jail after that. Like nobody was calling, nobody was offering me jack shit. And so my career was kind of in another weird downswing, and I was really bummed out. And I had lunch with a producer, and she said, "Hey, remember it was called Half to Death back then. Happy Death Day was called Half to Death." She said, remember Half to Death? She's like, "That was a really good script. It's such a shame we never got to make it, because it was a movie that I had rewritten ages ago for another director." And the studio ended up closing its doors. So the script just kind of sat on a shelf for years and years and years. And then I found out that the other producer was about to turn the script into a web series, and was literally days away from closing the deal. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to give the script to Jason Blum and just let him read it, because I still had contact with him. Obviously, we did all the paranormals together, so like I had a direct line. So I sent Jason the script, and he read it, and he called me back, and he was like, "I gave this to Universal, and they're greenlighting it now."
Whoa!
So I was like, "Wait, what?"
Again?
Like, yeah,
I've sold your script.
It was literally that again. He's like, "We're gonna make this," but I was like, "Oh fuck, I've got to stop the web series now somehow."
Yeah.
So we frantically did it and stopped that from happening. And it was an unplanned thing. Like we went off and made the movie, and again, I kind of felt like I was at a place where like nobody wanted to work with me.
It was a lower budget than Scout's Guide as well, wasn't it?
So much lower. We made that for $5.
Yeah, so
and it was a movie that I loved making.
Which is incredible.
I had a great time making it, and I kind of found my work wife, Jessica Roth, who's the star, and
brilliant.
She's amazing.
She's amazing in it. Yeah, she's really good. Yeah,
but we just kind of made this fun little movie and didn't know what to expect from it. And so when it came out and it did as well as it did, it was a surprise to me, at least. And that was, I think, really sort of, that was the real kind of fuel in my tank, where I felt like I'd found the kind of movie I liked to make that felt like me. Like I felt like before I was always a gun for hire. I was always like doing gigs. And this one kind of felt like, oh, this is my personality. Like, this is what I like to do. And so that's why I did the sequel, and then I did Freaky, and, now my new movie. They all feel very much parts of me.
I like that. Yeah, Freaky's fantastic. Happy Death Day 2, again, brilliant. You knew what you were doing, just got on with it and made just absolute delightful, joyous films that cinema is made from. That fun horror comedy where you go with friends, family, and you just enjoy yourself, or you watch it late at night with a group of friends. It's just brilliant, which brings us on perfectly to We Have a Ghost. It was really great. I really enjoyed this. Again, it's that fun, but you've taken a different angle on it. It's almost the Ghostbusters style angle, if you like. And again, that's putting it down and not doing it justice, in the sense that it's really lovely. It's really well made. And I feel like it's a different angle for you as well as a director. It proves you can handle, all this other thing. Not that you couldn't, you know what I mean? But in terms of that world. And and the performances of the cast and the young cast, and it's just great. Talk us about this then. Talk us through it, because it was based on a book as well. And I suppose it'd be really interesting to talk about your writing process in this time as well. It feels like, do you, with your, like you do with your directing, you properly plan it through, your shot list. Do you do the same with your writing? Do you literally, and let's use We Have a Ghost as an example of putting do you put notes everywhere? How do you play, especially adapting something as well?
So this was an adaptation of a short story that was featured in Vice, and it was sent to me from one of my former agents, who I didn't leave him. He moved on to another company. He's a great guy. Yeah,
just to make that clear, everyone.
No, he's great. But he had great taste. And he sent me the short story, and I read it, and I fell madly in love with it because I was like, this is such a cool take on a ghost story. I've never read something that kind of views the sort of the trope riddled haunted house story through all these different lenses, especially sort of the social media lens, because it really asks the simplest question, which I think the best stories do, which is, what would you do if you found a ghost in your house? Well, you would naturally pick up your phone and record it and probably post it, and then and you would become probably overnight internet famous. So I immediately saw the version of it in my head that I thought was the movie. And so what I do once I had to kind of duke it out a little bit for the rights and stuff. But once I had that and had set it up, whenever I write, I don't do like whiteboards and note cards, and I don't know, just that always feels very intimidating and chaotic for me. So I just simple pen and paper is my style. I write very long handwritten outlines. And I try to pack in as much as I can. And I really go scene by scene through the movie. And for me, it's always like it's like going on a road trip. Like you may not know how you're getting there, but you kind of know, what the destination is, but you're going to kind of meander through different towns till you get there. And I write that way, but I don't skip over stuff. Like I don't leapfrog and say, I'll come back to that later, because you couldn't do that on a road trip. You can't go from one town to the next without driving there. So like you have to still physically do this thing. And so I always try and stay the course and just keep pushing through until I have something that's finished.
Well, what happens? Let's say you get stuck on a scene or a bit of dialogue that you've got to write, and you go, I don't know how to get them from there to there. Or I don't know how to write that little bit.
I stay there.
You say, do you? Do you stay there?
Yeah, it's the same principle again. Like the whole, like you can't, if you're on a road trip, you can't teleport yourself somewhere else.
You don't write funny line here. This will be an amazing scene. Let's go to the next one.
No, you might have to drive through a muddy field and your car will get stuck, and then you have to call a tow. Like I try to see it that way, which is like, okay, so here I am, and I always find that when I'm stuck, it's really just the story pushing back. It's the story saying, I don't like where you are right now, where you're going. So maybe take a couple steps back and evaluate it, or try and pick a hairpin thing that you didn't consider before. So it's like, okay, and I'll stay there until I think I have at least found a way out. It doesn't mean that I don't go back eventually and go, okay, well, that was just fucking terrible. Like, let's actually figure this out now. But like, I still find a way to forge ahead. And like I said, I try to write as much as possible. So I'll handwrite tons of dialogue as I hear it while I'm writing the outline. And then after that, I input it, into a proper document, which is almost like a rewriting process, because then I'm just kind of doing it all over again and making adjustments there. Yeah. And then I really do try to get to script as quickly as possible, just because I want to have a thing, like a tangible thing that I can really work from, So like, it's the same reason why, like, as a writer, I don't like to pitch projects. I try not to do it ever. I would rather write a screenplay and not sell it than go around and pitch a movie.
Wow.
Like, I hate it. And I think it takes just as long.
Yeah, because you're going around the rooms and you're talking, you pitch an idea and they go, hey, that could be cool. Hey, why don't you come back and pitch that to the rest of the...
Yeah.
Months later.
You got to spend weeks in advance, like practicing and doing a whole like dance for grandma routine. And it's like, I'm not an actor. I don't like to perform. I don't want to be in a room and be like, and then, you know, like,
because that's what they want. They want showmanship to come in the room and literally, and they go, oh my God, it's amazing. You're like, well, it's just an actor. Hire an actor.
Now there's like fucking, hire an, I actually know someone who did. It's really funny. But I know someone who wrote like a noir thriller and hired like a guy, had him dressed like a detective, and had like so weird.
Did it work? Please tell me it worked.
No, I don't think it did.
Because they could see through the bad acting.
So bizarre.
Yeah, it wasn't De Niro in the room doing it. What about then? Because like you say, you struggle with that. That standing up in front of necessary, not struggle with it, but you don't like to do it. How about then working with your actors? You know, on We Have a Ghost, etc. How do you find that process as a director to go, okay, well, this, and let's use We Have a Ghost as example. You know, you got Anthony
working
Mackie
with actors.
Here. Yeah, working with actors.
God. Now the actor part is my favorite thing. I love it. And I'm a big fan of rehearsing, though not every actor wants to do it. And so I'm very comfortable with not rehearsing certain things, because there are those actors that want to know it so well that they can throw it away, and then there are the actors that feel like you're actually stealing them of their spontaneity. And so you kind of have to meet them where they are, I always find, first and foremost. But at least making sure that they're super clear and comfortable and very understanding of their character and their character's sort of background and how they arrived at the place that they are in this film. And I think that's the advantage I bring often as the writer and the director. I know these characters super well. And so for me, it's like introducing them to an old friend. You know what I mean? So I can kind of like really get them familiar with the version of the person that's in my head, but then also letting them kind of do what they want to do, what they can bring to the role as well. And it's a funny thing, like you asked earlier about like, what did I learn from my first film? You know, I didn't know how to talk to actors very well. Like I just knew bad habits, like line readings, and instead of talking about things purely from an emotional standpoint, you know, like this is how you're feeling in this moment, or like, you know, just being able to modulate my notes and my direction that way, so that you're not giving some actor like who's very well trained and talented your bad version of a bad impersonation of what you think they should do.
Yes.
But anyways, I love working with actors. I mean, that for me, casting is the single most important part of the job. I always tell people, like, you know, script and casting, that's it. Those are the only two things you have to nail, and everything else can kind of have its flaws and its mistakes, and you'll still come out on the other side okay. But you can't have, like, I've been in situations where I was pressured into casting the wrong person, and I'll never do that again. And I've been in situations where I was forced to rewrite things that I didn't believe in, and I will never do that.
Yeah, that's a good tip, because everyone's got an opinion. Everyone has, and sometimes you go, no.
And it's your movie.
Yeah.
You've still got to like fall on that sword, you know,
it's your name,
whatever it is.
Yeah. So on We Have a Ghost, then, how was it doing that? You know, it felt like it was big, it felt grand, it felt beautiful, it was shot so nicely as well, the colors, all that kind of stuff was just felt, you know, big and nice. Was it? I had about 7 questions in my head as well at the same time. I was like, I want to talk about the Netflix thing. I was like, no,
I could give you all kinds of stuff on the whole. I mean, I'll put it to you this way.
Yeah,
this movie was both the easiest and the hardest movie I've ever made, and I think that people probably feel that way about every film. But, you know, like each movie presents its own sort of unique challenges, kind of like the way you have your children. They're all different, and they're all going to kind of present different challenges, but they're also going to yield different rewards.
Yeah.
And this was a movie that I desperately wanted to make, because I felt like it was finally the bridge between all my worlds. And I felt like this was the movie that had one foot planted in my past, which is horror, but it had another foot firmly planted in my present and my future, which is, you know, me as a father, me no longer embarrassed or ashamed of my dad's very sensitive emotional work. I think I spent so much of my career running from my dad to prove a point, to prove that I could stand on my own 2 feet, that it wasn't some kind of big nepotism thing, or that I was my own filmmaker, my own storyteller. So I just ran to the dark side as fast as I could. But all that time I carried that sentimentality in my heart, and I just never wanted to show it. And so this was the first movie where I felt like I got to introduce these two sides of myself together in a real way, in a meaningful way. And it's why the movie's so much about fatherhood. Because I'm kind of wrestling and I'm sorting all of these feelings out in this movie. But it was a challenge in so many ways, because it was, while I had like the luxury of the best schedule I've ever had in my life, I couldn't believe it. I was like, my head was exploding. I had 65 days. Like,
wow.
I've never,
the longest ever. Yeah, never.
Not
it's
even
like,
close
lucky
to
get
65.
Yeah.
Now, you learn very quickly how fast those 65 days disappear when you have to shoot the same actor 4 times, 4 different ways to achieve the effect that you're going for.
Of course,
so
right.
All of a sudden, all that fancy time is disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add, we had daily lightning shutdowns, which lasted for hours. We had a hurricane. I, in pre-production, found out that I had kidney cancer.
Oh, mate, no.
I had to have part of my right kidney removed.
Oh, jeez.
So it was like challenge city. But it also kind of gave fire to it all,
Sure.
Like, I think especially the cancer thing, which is like heavy topic, but I've got my cast, I've got like everybody's like ready to go. And then all of a sudden I'm like, hey guys, I have to, I found out I have cancer and they've got to remove part of my organ. And there was a huge moment where I think everybody was just expecting me to quit, like just to not come back.
Right.
And for me, that wasn't an option. And I wanted to prove it to myself. And I worked so hard to try and make this movie happen in the first place. And I also just like, for my kids, I didn't want them to see me drop out or go down. And so I was like, I'm going to go do this thing and I'm going to go right back to work. And it was really fucking hard because I was in agony. And I would have to go and sit down and I would be doubled over in pain and then keep going. Like I'm on tech scouts and I'm like doing all this stuff and I've still got, big swollen stitches in my abdomen. But I was like, I'm not making this movie. So I'm just going to get through it. And we did. And so that's sort of the crazy, long, wild journey of the movie.
It's fascinating. And I suppose maybe just final bit of advice then for filmmakers out there. And you mentioned, you have already talked about stuff like that, whereas what you've learned and what you wouldn't do differently, or what you would do differently. And moving forward then, let's talk about that rather than going backwards, because we've done that. What are you looking forward to doing differently next time as a director or writer?
I think more than anything, it's to continue to try and challenge myself, narratively, like not to be afraid of stepping outside of, whatever box I might be in or feel that I'm in. I think that's a big one. It's funny because like, it's not so much like I want to do things differently. I just want to do them better,
Sure.
So like the thing that I know is kind of the right direction. I just want to figure out how I can improve that. And that seems to serve me well. I mean, I think I'll always kind of try and maintain sort of my North Star is going to be the, do I love this thing? Like, do I love this project? And is it something that I feel I have to make, I think I spent so much of my career and my life just desperately trying to get my foot in the door and keep it there, that I honestly would pretty much take any job that I could get. And I think there's a necessity there, of course, but at the same time, I found that when I didn't gravitate to things that were part of my personality or something that I felt in my heart, they usually failed. They usually didn't work out. And so I think that's kind of the real big thing too, is that you just have to continue to try and write from your gut and from your heart. make films from that place as much as possible, because it's really easy to fall into the trap where like suddenly there are offers coming to you. You know, I've been very, very fortunate at this point in my career where I do get movies offered to me, and sometimes they sound really exciting on paper. And it's like, wow, like I can do that. Like, wow, that's really cool that they're thinking of me that way. But then I don't feel it, you know? And so it's hard for me to say no, but I've learned to say no because I know that like, I'll probably fuck it up. It probably won't be very good, you know? And I don't want to be a gun for hire again, you know? Like, I think that's the one luxury I feel like, at least right now, I've earned my ability to say no to things. And I think that's really important, you know, is to acknowledge that, and to also acknowledge like what kind of a film, like if someone came to me and said, you know, we want you to direct, you know, like, you know, the next Ant-Man movie, like, I don't know, probably not the guy, you know, for the job. Not unless I fell in love with it for some reason.
But very hard to turn down though. I mean, that, you know, if you get,
well, that's what I mean. You get those things. Like I had a movie, and I won't say what it was, but I had a movie that was offered to me, and it was like a fancy, big,
one of those
$100 million movie.
Wow.
And it was like, and I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
I remember I came home and my husband saw that I was like sheet white. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit. I finally got one of those really big, crazy offers, but I didn't like the script and I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
You couldn't even
like,
write it to change.
I don't know how to fix this.
Right.
My brain doesn't know how to fix this. And so I said, no. And my agents, I thought were going to die.
I bet. They go, hang on, I was getting a percentage of this. Now you're doing
just more like, this is the thing you work for. Like, this is this is what everybody works for. Like, this is your, but it wasn't for me. It was like, but that's not me. Like, I don't think I'm not being honest with myself, you know, and I don't want to, I mean, sure, I could make that movie and make a lot of money, but I just don't think I'll be proud of it, you know? And I really want to be proud of everything that I do now. And it's not easy to do, and I'll still probably fuck a lot of things up, but
at least you're doing it on your own terms and in your own way. Exactly. And you're going, I'm doing this for me, rather than, you don't want to be in direct to jail again, you know, in that sense, that your own self-proclaimed version of it. But yeah, you don't want to go off and make that, and then suddenly it's, like you say, it's fucked up, and oh gosh, what am I going to do now? And you've got.
I just don't want to be a soulless contraption, you know, where I'm like just counting the seconds for the movie to be over.
Yeah,
you know, like I want that feeling of like that completely incomparable bliss that you feel when you wrap on a movie and you're so exhausted, and you know you're going to be so happy to be back home, but you're going to miss all the people that you worked with. It's like the end of summer camp, you know, like that feeling. It's bittersweet, and I love that feeling, and I want to have that feeling every time.
This has been really delightful to chat to you, Chris. Thank you so much for spending time with us, talking through We Have a Ghost is out on Netflix February the 24th. Go watch this film. It's fun. It's brilliant. You're gonna love it. Again, if you're lucky enough to go out there and make your films, if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, it's your duty to send the elevator back down. Go out there, make your films. You can do it. You can write those scripts. You can get stuff made. And go out and make it. Prove yourself right. Be a filmmaker you want to be. We will see you next Tuesday, as always. Chris Landon, thank you so much.
Thank you, Giles. It was really nice to meet you.
Really nice to meet you.
The right window treatments change everything. Your sleep, your privacy, the way every room looks and feels. At Blinds.com, we've spent 30 years making it surprisingly simple to get exactly what your home needs. We've covered over 25 million windows and have 50,000 five-star reviews to prove we deliver. Whether you DIY it or want a pro to handle everything from measure to install, we have you covered. Real design professionals, free samples, zero pressure. Right now, get up to 45% off with minimum purchase, plus get a free professional measure at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.